Today, we will be looking into weakness. Weakness is a synergy type used for combat. Works in events like Ultimate Tournament and Alliance Conquest, as well as the Westeros world. Weakness can only be triggered by the commander, Jaime. His 4-star skill, Hear Me Roar, allows troops to perform weakness attacks on the enemy when receiving healing. Weakness attacks target the weakest enemy lineup and cannot be missed. It also scales attack stats against the specific target by 3%. While weakness cannot work without Jaime, primary enablers are required for weakness, and secondary commanders can also help with weakness. Primary enablers are commanders who are able to heal the lineup. This would allow Jaime to cause weakness attacks. Some examples of primary enablers are Drake, Enzo, and Lots. These commanders can heal the lineup, allowing weakness attacks to trigger. Do note that these 3 enablers require their own troop type in order to heal. Drake cannot heal without spears. Same with Lats for infantry and Enzo with cavalry. The 2 other weakness commanders are Arslan and Hector. Unlike the previous 3 commanders mentioned, Arslan and Hector are able to heal the lineup no matter the troop type used. Arslan is able to trigger weakness every 8 seconds by healing the most damaged lineup by 2%. Hector is able to heal all the lineups on the front by 50%. When any lineup on the front takes skill damage, Hector's 4-star ability, Bloodthirsty Longspear, would heal that lineup once by 50% and increase the lineup's attack by 15%, lasting the entire battle. Since each battle has 5 lineups on the front, Hector's skill would be able to activate 5 times. Secondary commanders are commanders who are able to use the weakness attacks to create more advantages. Some of the secondary commanders are Patelo and Winton. Patelo's 4-star skill, Tiger Assault, occurs when the lineup has dealt 10 weakness attacks or 25 seconds after the battle has begun. When the skill is casted, the front row's attack will increase by 30% and the damage taken will decrease by 8% for the remainder of the battle. Winton's 4-star skill, Silent Blade, would increase the front row's health by 15% and be able to silence a commander once for 12 seconds when a total of 50 weakness attacks has happened. Silenced commanders will be unable to use active army skills. The remaining secondary commanders are used in very powerful account setups, as these commanders tend to be expensive for the regular spender. One of the powerful secondary commanders is Petter Baelish. His 4-star skill, Malicious Speculation, occurs after 8 weakness attacks, or 25 seconds after the battle begins. The skill will have an 80% chance of having all enemy commanders have the disharmony effect, which lasts throughout the rest of the battle. Whenever the enemy commanders cast their active skills, the disharmony effect will have a 50% chance of redirecting it towards the enemy lineup. Another secondary commander that many powerful accounts use is Daena. Daena's 4-star skill, Butterfly's Blessing, would increase Spearman's defense by 40% for the entire battle. When the setup has dealt 10 weakness attacks, all lineups will gain a shield that would tank 60% of the damage for 3 seconds. However, the shield does not work against bleed synergy. The last secondary commander that is the latest commander added to the game is Ermedon. His 4-star skill, Desire for War, allows him to target 2 random enemy commanders every 10 weakness attacks. His strikes would have a damage coefficient of 100% and increase the weakness damage inflicted on the target by 6%. While there are no more secondary commanders, a lot of setups tend to use commanders such as Night King, as he is able to revive 90% of a lineup's casualties if the lineup has lost 20% of its troops, as well as increasing the total attack by the lineup by 20%. If you have been playing Game of Thrones for a while, you may be aware of the countering mechanic, which is when attacking a countered troop type would deal extra damage, and being countered by a troop type would cause the ally lineup to deal reduced damage. Spearmen counter cavalry, but get countered by infantry. This is the same for synergies as well. Weakness. While it can be played with all troop types, is mainly a spearman setup, as the primary enabled and secondary commanders are mainly spear commanders. This means the weakness synergy does counter the female setup. However, the reasoning behind it actually does not have to do with the troop type itself. Petyr Baelish is a very good commander to use against female, since the synergy allows active army skills to be triggered multiple times because of Lila. More into that in a different video. Baelish is able to redirect 50% of the commander's skills to target the enemy troops, which does quite a lot of damage, and is one of the main reasons weakness counters female synergy. Most female synergies tend to have the commander, Salma, in their setups, as she has an 80% chance of triggering all female skills at the start of the battle. Hector is Salma's worst nightmare, as he would then be able to use his awakening skill healing 50% of all the lineups on the front line, which causes a ton of weakness attacks to trigger and can almost wipe out most of the lineup. That is another reason why weakness is able to counter female. Even though weakness can counter a synergy, it also means that it can be countered. The bleed synergy counters it. This is because weakness targets the weakest lineup, but the commander, Kevin, puts a protection shield on the weakest lineup, rendering the weakness synergy useless. Another reason why bleed counters weakness is because it does not use any active skills like female synergy. This results in Hector and Petyr Baelish not being able to use their 4-star skills, as they need the enemy to cast army skills. Also, as mentioned previously, Dana's shield wouldn't work against bleed. Overall, weakness is a very strong synergy, and is also very popular since it is able to work with all troop types but bowmen. Thanks for watching.